Hi guys, and welcome back to Amelia Tutorials. So we have went over our integrations, features, and all of the specifics that you can set up in Amelia, as well as some troubleshooting and how you can solve some common issues that you may face. And today we have prepared an overview video for you how you can go through settings, general settings, payment settings, working hours, company settings, all of the global things that you can configure in Amelia, and some of the first steps that you can set up for your business through our Amelia plugin. So without further ado, let's just dive right in.
Okay, well, basically, Amelia settings. We'll go through these, and if you guys have any questions, just post them in the comment section below. So when you install Amelia, this is the default time slot step, which is set to 30 minutes. You can change it, and one thing to note is that this time slot step will affect everything. So employees' working hours, service durations, buffer times, everything. So if you set it to 5 minutes, you can choose that your employee works for 15 minutes, for example. If you set it for 30 minutes, you will get 30 minutes, 1 hour, 1.5 hours, and so on. Default appointment status is what's all appointments will be saved as. So either approved or pending. You can change this individually per service under service settings. If you enable the use service duration for booking a time slot, you will basically have a 2-hour service that will fill all time slots on the front end. So when this is enabled, you will see an appointment being served from 8 to 10, from 10 to 12, and so on. If this is disabled, you will see options like 8 to 10, then the next time slot will be from 8:30 to 10:30, and so on. So this basically overrides the default time slot step, so it's fixed. Include service buffer time in time slots allows you to include the buffer time in the time slots on the front end. So if the service lasts for 1 hour and 30 minutes and the buffer time is 30 minutes, the time slot will take 2 hours on the front end. Minimum time required before booking is something that you can enable to limit your customers and allow them to pick, well, not allow them, but block them from picking anything outside of this scope. So minimum time required before booking, if you set this to 1 day, within 1 day from the appointment, the time slots will not be offered. Minimum time required before canceling uses the same logic. So if someone books an appointment and they want to cancel within 2 days, if you set this to be 2 days and they try to cancel an appointment which is scheduled for tomorrow, they won't be able to. Minimum time required before rescheduling is the same as minimum time required before canceling. You can also change it to be different than canceling. So for example, you can allow your customers to reschedule within 1 day from the appointment, but they won't be able to cancel within 2 days. The period available for booking in advance is set to 1 year by default, but you can limit that. So if you set it to 30, only the next 30 days will be displayed on the front end when someone lands on the booking page. The country code is defined by the IP address of the user by default. You can change it and set it to be a fixed country code. You can also enable the email to be the phone number to be a mandatory field. And here is where you would add languages. So we've done some multilingual website videos in the past. So in here is where you would add those languages. For example, you have a website which is in English, French, and German, and your default site is in English. So you would add here German and you would add French in order to serve Amelia on the front end in those languages. Email can be set as a mandatory field, but it doesn't have to be. Show booking slots in client's time zone. So if you're serving clients from multiple time zones, you can enable this. So for example, your employee is in London and his working hours are from 8 to 10 and he has an appointment from 8 to 10, but someone from Central European time, when daylight savings time kicks in, will be 2 hours ahead. So when they book that appointment, they will see it as 10 to 12 if you enable this setting, of course. Add to calendar option is what your customers see when they book an appointment. So they see that congratulations screen and they get an option to choose the calendar to which they will add this appointment. It can be Google Calendar, Yahoo, iCal, And that's basically it. Default items per page. This allows you to choose between 3 and 30 items per page. This applies to events, categories, and services within the Amelia catalog booking form. The default page on backend is the default page in here, so you can change that to be calendar, appointments, and events, other than the dashboard, of course. If you want to choose locations based on a map, a Google map, you need to configure Google Map API in your Google Developers Console and paste the key here. The redirect URL after booking is a custom page that you've created that says, for example, thank you for booking an appointment with us. So you copy the URL of that page and paste it here. So the customer is redirected to that page after they click on finish when they see the congratulations screen. Attachment upload path. As you can see here, all attachments will be uploaded into WordPress's uploads folder, but if you need a different path, you can add it here. One thing to note is that this cannot be a URL, but a specific path. Also, if you configured Google's reCAPTCHA, you can enable it and add the reCAPTCHA site key and the secret key in here. So basically, this covers the general settings of Amelia.
Yeah, so any settings that you may need for your website and your dates and time slots or language, you can configure under the general settings on the settings page. So yeah, let's move forward.
Okay. Company, all these other settings are much shorter, so we'll go through them faster. So basically, company settings are the name, the address, and the website of your company, where you can also add the phone number. These can be added to the notifications via placeholders, and you can also translate these into languages that you've added. So if your company name is different in other languages, you can translate it here.
And the translate icon, you may notice, repeats through the plugin. So anywhere you see that means those labels can also be translated to different languages that you have set up.
That is correct. Okay, notifications. Here is where you actually configure the mailing service that you use to send Amelia's notifications. The best option is SMTP. So in here, if you're using Gmail, you need to enable allow less secure apps in your Gmail account. The port is 587 and the security is TLS. This is your login email that you use to log into your email. This is the password that you use to log into your email. This is the name that will be displayed to the recipient, and this is the sender email. You can see that we've set it to be no reply at wpamelia.com. This allows you to notify the customers by default. If this is not enabled when you create an appointment in the backend, this slider will be disabled when you're creating an appointment. The successful cancellation redirect URL. When you paste the placeholder for customers to cancel their appointment in their email template, if the cancellation is successful, you can create a new page where it will say, for example, you've successfully canceled your appointment. You copy the URL of that page and paste it here. In an event where the customer tries to cancel within the period that you've predefined as not being able to cancel, so for example, you set that in the general settings to be 2 days, they try to cancel within 1 day, they are redirected to a different page that says, sorry, you're not able to cancel your appointment within this period of time. So you copy that URL and paste it here. This is useful for admins. So basically you type your email address in here, admin@amelia.com, and hit enter, and this email is added, and this email address will receive all email notifications that have been sent. So that includes both the customer and the employee emails that are sent. The same applies for SMS messages. So this number that you enter here will receive all SMS that have been sent to the employees and the customers. You can also enable the ICS file to be sent in the notifications. So this is the file that anyone can add to any calendar, and you can add the description below. So the description can be different for appointments and events, and you can use the placeholders that are also included in the notification section. So for example, you can copy the customer first name, booked an appointment on appointment date time, and save that, and this is what the ICS files description will be. So this is for SMTP. PHP mail is not something that we recommend because those usually get flagged as spam. So it does work, but we basically do not recommend it because it often goes to spam. Now, if you have a WP Mail SMTP plugin or any other plugin that configures WP Mail, you don't have to choose the SMTP. Simply choose WP Mail and add your sender name, sender email, and that's it. Everything will be handled with that other plugin. The last option is Mailgun. So you need a Mailgun account, and when you create the account, you need to copy the API key, the domain, set the sender name, sender email, and this is the endpoint that you use if you're from the European Union countries. So this is mandatory. For European Union, you need to have an endpoint. Everything else remains the same. Okay, global working hours and days off. This is something that you basically configure before adding your employees. So if your company works from 9 to 5, you simply leave it at that because this is the default settings. Here you can add days off, for example, New Year's, and select the date, which is December 31st. Repeat yearly and add a day off. This day off will apply to all employees. However, if you add an employee after you've added the work days and global working hours and days off, these times, when changed, will not apply to the employee. So for example, if we remove this and add different working hours to be from 8 to, I don't know, 2, these working hours will not apply to the employee because he already has these pre-configured. So if you're going to change the working hours, you need to change them in the employee's profile. Payment settings. Here is where you configure the payment settings. So you choose the currency, you choose where the price symbol will be. Here's the little preview. You choose the price separator and the number of decimals. You can also choose to hide the currency symbol on the booking form, and you can add a custom currency symbol in here. The default payment method is set to either on-site or any of the payment methods that you've enabled below. Here you can enable coupons, which do not appear in the finance section unless this is enabled. One thing to note is when you enable WooCommerce, on-site becomes unavailable, PayPal becomes unavailable, Stripe becomes unavailable, and Mali can be enabled, but then yeah. So when you select WooCommerce, nothing else can be selected. This is the only payment option that you have. If you select PayPal, you can enable Stripe as well. And if you select Mali, you can also, you cannot select anything else other than on-site. So with WooCommerce, on-site and other payment methods are unavailable. With Mali, only on-site is available, and with PayPal and Stripe, you can combine both of them with on-site payment. So the payment configuration for all these is pretty much the same. You copy the keys from your accounts. For Mali, for example, for PayPal, you have sandbox mode, you have live keys. So when you enable them, you need to go to your account, copy these. We've covered these in separate videos.
So if you want more detailed explanation, you can also go back and search for some of the videos that we have done about Stripe, PayPal, and other payment methods.
And we actually done only Stripe for now, so you can check that out. But we'll cover PayPal and others soon. Yeah. This metadata and description is added for all enabled payments. So in here, description for PayPal, description for Stripe. as you can see, customer full name, booked an appointment with employee on appointment date and time. Customer's email is this. These are the metadata that are added to Stripe and or PayPal and or other payment methods. Integration covers Google Calendar, Outlook Calendar, Zoom, webhooks, marketing tools, lesson space. So we have detailed documentation about this. In short, when you configure it, you copy the client ID, the client secret, the redirect URI is pulled from the URL. If you change the domain, you will need to change this redirect URI. This is the description of the Google event that is created. So it's by default set to service name, but you can also add the description. It's different for events, so make sure to cover both. If you enable Google Meet, the employee that is linked to his Google Calendar will also receive a Google Meet link, and you can include the placeholder for Google Meet in the notification section, so the customer also receives the URL for that. Pending appointments can or cannot be included depending on what you select. Add event attendees allows you to see the attendees of the event that are included in the appointment. If you enable this, all customers will be able to see all other customers in the event. Send event invitation email. This is basically, this allows you to send the email invitation to your users, and this only works if you enable the attendees. So when you enable event attendees, you can send another email, which would be the second email that allows them to actually add this to their calendar. Remove Google Calendar busy slots. This reads Google Calendar's existing busy slots and removes them from Amelia. So if you have appointments in the front end and you have existing Google Calendar busy events, those will be removed for the employee that's connected to this calendar. It pulls the 2,500, but you can lower that. It pulls the next 2,500 events from Google Calendar. Include buffer time in Google Events is basically the same as in general settings. You choose whether or not you're going to include the buffer time in the event that's created from the appointment. Appointment settings are pretty simple. This one allows your customers to book an appointment above maximum capacity. So if this is enabled and your service's maximum capacity is 10, 12, 15, 20 people will be able to book that appointment in pending status. So then you will be able to choose which of those you will approve, and once you reach 10 approved, the others will be declined. Allow booking below minimum capacity allows you to create group appointments. So if you have minimum capacity of 1, maximum capacity of 10, and this is disabled, once a customer chooses the number of people that will be in this appointment, for example, he brings 5 people with him, that's 6 people in total, the time slot will close. If you want to allow others to book the same appointment, you need to enable this, so one person can book for himself, other people can book for them plus 2, other people can book for them plus 3, so on until the maximum capacity is reached or not reached. Label settings define labels: employee, employees, service, and services. Basically, this is enabled by default. So if you're using a different language and you see employee or service on the front end, just disable this. We will soon remove these settings or enhance them because you can configure everything through the customized section. Role settings are for customers, employees, and admins. So this allows your employees to configure their services on the front end employee panel, their days off, their schedule, their special days, to manage their appointments, to manage their events, and to enable the customer panel, the employee panel. So when the page is created, you need to add the, as you can see here, Amelia employee panel shortcode, copy the URL and paste it here. That's it. The same goes for the customers. When you enable the panel, you create a page, you paste the shortcode, and then you paste the URL in here so the customer panel is enabled. This setting allows you to have one email address linked to only one first name and last name. So if a customer, John Doe, books an appointment with John Doe at test.com, another person cannot use the same email if he's using different first name and last name. So it has to be John Doe if he's using the same email address. So for example, if a mother wants to book an appointment for 3 of her children, that's 3 different appointments, this needs to be disabled so she can use the same email address but 3 different names. Automatically create Amelia customer user. This refers to the WordPress user and the Amelia customer user role. So someone lands on your website, books an appointment, and Amelia automatically creates the Amelia customer user role and links that customer to that user role. This option allows your customers to reschedule their appointments, and this enables the requirement of a password in order to log in. If this is disabled, the customers will have to enter their email address every time they land at the the customer panel page. So then Amelia will send them the customer panel access email, which logs them in. If the password is enabled, they configure the password the first time they click on the link in the email, and then they use that password to log in. As for admin, it currently has only one option, which is to allow the admin to book an appointment at any time. This means that an administrator can go into appointments and book from midnight till 1 a.m. For an employee that has working hours from 8 to 5. So this gives the administrator the right to book an appointment at any time. And last but not least, activation settings. This is where you enter the purchase code of Amelia if you purchase the plugin from our website, and click on activate in order to receive automatic updates. If you purchase the plugin through the Envato marketplace, you don't enter anything in here, but simply click on activate with Envato and it takes you to Envato login. And when you log into your account, it brings you back to this page saying that the the purchase code has been activated. This option is for when you're removing Amelia from your plugins section. So if you enable this and you deactivate and then delete Amelia, you will delete everything that you've created: employees, customers, services, categories, events, everything. So this removes database tables of Amelia. So if you're temporarily removing Amelia, make sure this is not enabled. Load entities on page load is to avoid AJAX calls for fetching entities, which are services, employees, packages, locations, and tags. And enable usage for old Internet Explorer browsers is enabled by default, but if you're having issues with old browsers, you can disable this. And if you don't have any issues with old browsers, you can disable this. Sorry about that. Just too big of a video.
Thank you, Sala, and thank you guys for watching. I hope you find this useful. And as we said, we do have some more documentation and videos about some specifics in this video if you're interested to watch those, about the integrations and stuff like that. And if you have any questions or you want us to go into even more detail about something, please leave those down in the comments. And while you're there, don't forget to like,
share,
and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.